with a migration from Asia through the Bering Strait over the land bridge and then down through the ice-free corridor. And so if individuals with haplogroup X migrated through that ice-free corridor, they would have first entered the continental United States and continental North America in the upper Great Plains, and it would make sense then that we would see the highest frequency of haplogroup X today in populations in that region.
Most mainstream archaeologists and historians would probably agree that this assessment is something of a contemporary final word on Native American origins. So does DNA science put much of diffusionist theory to rest? Diffusionists would answer no. The reason? There's a lot about DNA evidence that is a controversy.
I'm Cherokee Indian, and so I had a moral imperative to investigate my own family history and origins, and that led me to DNA. I was a professor at that time in Georgia, and with my research partner, Dr. Elizabeth Hirschman, we became interested in the mystery of our people. Haplogroup X is really a fascinating story because the X-Files of Native American genetics, because it burst on the scene in 1998. Scientists didn't want to believe it, but they found a new haplogroup in addition to A, B, C, D among the Indians of the Great Lakes in particular, and that was haplogroup X. And so immediately the scientists who have a kind of idée fixe, in my opinion, set about trying to find haplogroup X in Mongolia and Siberia, because of course all American Indians, all upstanding American Indians came across the Bering Land Bridge chasing woolly mammoths, right? So they weren't able to find haplogroup X in Siberia. They found one case of it. That wasn't enough. Haplogroup X was a Eurasian type. So then they started talking about, oh, well, maybe they got here by jumping across the ice in a circumpolar fashion. Okay. Well, it kind of rested there for a while. As it turned, and last year, finally, the mystery of haplogroup X was revealed in a very important study by a team under Dr. Schluss, and he determined without any doubt that the origin of haplogroup X was the hills of Galilee. It was that clear. That's where, because where you have the greatest concentration and the greatest diversity, you have, that's the origin.
There's no controversy among DNA experts about the Middle Eastern origin of haplogroup X. The only question really is, when did it arrive in the Americas?
Most projections about ancient human history, prehistory really, are based on a mathematical and statistical model called phylogenetics.
What we find in the journals is that it is commonly thought among DNA experts that there was an outmigration of haplogroup X from the Middle East about 40,000 years ago.
That's a pure projection. You know, it's a mathematical progression going back to there based on how mitochondrial DNA mutates. Is it true? Who knows?
But what most people don't realize is that among these same experts in these same journals, there is controversy about the dating.
So, you know, I think these are projections.
The controversy is between those who assume a theory that man branched from chimps 5 to 6 million years ago versus those who are using newer actual findings from DNA pedigree studies. The theoretical dating gives much longer time frames, but the actual data shows a 20-fold reduction and would place the Middle Eastern outmigration of haplogroup X about 2,000 years ago, plus or minus.
Is it true that all Native Americans came from 10 families that stumbled across the Bering Strait chasing woolly mammoths before the last ice age? I don't think mine did.
Whether or not ancestors of Native Americans originally came from Asia over the ancient land bridge, or whether or not they had interactions with other parts of the world, one thing is clear: much of their archaeological record is now gone.
It is unfortunate there was such an opportunity there, and I don't think that people consciously were trying to destroy things or ignore things. I think that for me this was a case where, you know, expansion was the thing on everyone's mind and moving forward.
Victims of science and of the doctrine of manifest destiny, 19th century Native Americans were labeled as savages, and this helped to legitimize their suppression, subordination, and the taking of their lands.
The idea that manifest destiny trumped all is certainly, as far as I have been able to read, absolutely true.
I understand that these early scientists were in the kind of products of their time, in that that's what people were talking about and that's what they were saying, and so they believed that yes, in fact, you know, Native people are savages who we can clearly see that. That's what they were thinking.
Disregard of their value resulted in the wanton destruction of thousands of artifacts and grand architectural achievements, and aided in erasing knowledge of their advanced capabilities from our collective memories. While scholars may disagree on the interpretation of remaining evidences, these remaining archaeological evidences may be keys to eventually recovering and more fully appreciating the buried history and culture of these ancient, lost civilizations.
I think it's important that we pay attention to the achievements of our predecessors. We may respect our predecessors a little more if we do. We certainly will respect our own responsibilities a little more if we look at the evidence that over the preceding 9,000 to 10,000 years, there have been several other periods in which, I'm assuming, proud people did proud things in the landscape and in cities. So there are important things for us to learn.
Turn that shit off. I can't get jiggy with this shit. All these bullshit lies perpetuated as truth. Remember what she said about that group that was not associated